You're listening to the Studio PTBO Podcast, where we talk all things marketing to help you build and grow your business online. Welcome to the latest episode. And welcome to episode 100 of the Studio PTBO Podcast. We are back at it again with another guest. Not another guest. We couldn't get the guest on the show today, so we have Neil instead. Neil, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. And can we play that? Happy 100th episode, brother. That's awesome.
Yeah. Happy 100. We've interviewed a lot of cool guests over the last year and a half. This is a big feat for us. We've had people like Richard Petty from the former CEO of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. We've had Babin. We've had Dustin Lee from Gary Vaynerchuk's team. We've had Alex Sharfin, Kat Howell, like so many cool guests over the last year with so many key insights about business and entrepreneurship and just mindset and ingenuity. We had Rob Wells on the show the other day. He's a music producer for people like Justin Bieber. It's like just absolutely crazy the amount of cool guests we've had over the last couple of years.
Yeah. When we conceived of this, we didn't know where it was going to go. We had hopes and dreams for it. And, it's still very much in its infancy. But at its core, we just wanted to do a show and riff about marketing and branding in the social media age and communication and entrepreneurship. And like the guests we've had on, Cody, it's been a game changer for us. We're always learning in real time, getting nuggets from these entrepreneurs from all different sectors. And, the common kind of ingredients in all of them is that they're just fundamentally really, really good people who want to share information and intel from their life experience. And they want to help other people get better. They want to help us get better. And we've been really lucky, man. Like even Cabby on the street, remember that? Got him. It's like, people, how'd you get him? Well, I knew he was coming to April. I asked him, DM'd him on Instagram. And, we've been really blessed with how far this show's gone. And Jairus now, our producer, it's just getting more legit, man. It's cool. Like what's your read on this, Jairus, coming in? I forget when you started with us, but maybe
February. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a really cool transition, actually. It was difficult at first, but starting from, in studio sessions and now to virtual sessions, that transition and how we've evolved from in studio to Zoom to now StreamYard has been like a really, really cool process, just for learning new software, learning new technology, and learning new processes as well, which has been really cool. So.
Yeah, no, man, it's been cool. And like, I think it was funny because this is the 100th episode, and one of our designers today, and I know Neil posted this in the Studio PTBO Marketing Hacks group, and I posted this on my personal channel about believe in your ability to figure things out. And it's like, that's really at the end of the day, what we did. Like when we first started, Neil, we had other things that we were doing. You had the PTBO Canada show you were doing for a while. And we kind of brought everything all together and compiled it into really honing in on our avatar, which is, entrepreneurs, and just helping them, get good sound advice from business owners, from entrepreneurs that are really crushing it. And we have some really cool guests coming on the podcast in the next couple of weeks. So it's been incredible to see kind of the genesis from the very beginning, driving, like, remember the weekend that we drove up and we did the back-to-back with Babin. What was that weekend? We did Babin and we did Cabby. That was the weekend we did Babin and Cabby that weekend, right? Was that the same weekend?
I don't remember. You're talking old man Neil here, but that weekend, being able to drive up Richard Petty in Toronto another week, Babin, who at that point was working with VaynerMedia, a videographer, grateful guy, gracious with his time when he flew into Toronto for a weekend. But yeah, we've been all over the place with it, and it's just for me, and just the feedback we get from people too about, texting or emailing us or asking us questions, saying, we really appreciate the value that you and your guests are delivering for us. So again, I've learned a lot from it in real time. I love storytelling. I love interviewing people. As you said earlier, I used to do the PTBO Canada show, and I feel like this is still reflection of who I am, what I'm interested in, storytelling, interviewing people. And it's just, and my passion is marketing and communication and media in this modern era. So I feel like, everything, the stars have aligned in terms of Jairus coming on board too, the transitioning and pivoting we've had to go through. This StreamYard has been phenomenal, and literally it happened because we interviewed Dustin Lee, who produces Gary Vee shows, Tea with Gary Vee, and it's just it's all everything's sort of aligned for us with Cody, and it's still in its infancy. I think the show is going to get
totally,
yeah.
It's like, and I like how you put that, where it's like, I feel like we're getting better at interviewing guests too. Like, you and I feed off each other a lot more. And it's like, we're really in our lane. Like if you listen to a lot of the StudioPTBO podcast, what we talk about, it's really sales, marketing, branding, ingenuity, creativity, mindset, gratitude, personal development. It's like all of the above. And it's so interesting whenever we interview guests. I always try to sneak in that little mindset question, because I find, like, I talked about this a little while ago, that so many entrepreneurs and business owners, when you look at, especially like at a high level macro, it's like they have a few key core functions that really guide their lives: it's gratitude, perspective, and mindset. And those three key things are the things that really push them through the hard times. And it's been so cool. Like we've kind of went on even talking about the last month or so, we went on the journey of interviewing other agency owners and what they're doing. And people like Kat Howell, who's been a really big part of the journey, and even starting the StudioPTBO podcast. And it's been cool, man. It's just been it's been a really, really cool vibe. I'm curious to know, what do you see happening in the future? Because like you said, we're just in our infancy. Like what do you see happen with the StudioPTBO podcast?
For me, my North Star has always been to drive attention to Peterborough in Canada, that you can be the best you can be from anywhere now. And, I want to be the best agency anywhere. Why not? I feel like we have a dream team right now. I feel like we're just getting going in a lot of ways. We're going to get better and better. And I feel like that we're on the way. The North Star someday is, someone writes a book about Peterborough, someone does a Netflix series about Peterborough. That the more we shine the light around the talent here, in this city, and the culture here in this city, and the community, the better. And I love that we're building, I always at its foundation, we're very local. Everyone who works for us, physically in the office is from Peterborough, but we're building a global brand. And that's always been my North Star, is to hack attention back to Peterborough, this great city, but to build a kick-ass brand and help and build and scale businesses locally, nationally and globally. So
it's funny that you say that, because I've been interviewed on some podcasts over the last little while talking about like sales and marketing and all that good stuff. And a lot of people ask me what PTBO stands for. And I think that people in Peterborough understand what it means. Like if you're from Peterborough, you understand that it's Peterborough. You understand PTBO Canada. But if you're not from Peterborough, it's often thing that comes up. Like we work with clients all across North America, and one of the first things we get asked is like, what does Peterborough mean? And I think that as we continue to grow, and as our team continues to grow, like we just brought on a Facebook ad specialist from Florida. It's like, what does Peterborough mean? It's like we're slowly hacking attention back to Peterborough, even with having some of the amazing guests who, Rob Wells is an example. He's originally from Peterborough, but a lot of these guests are getting like Cabby, his very first Cabby on the street, Cabby from TSN. His very first time in Peterborough, he came on our StudioPTBO podcast. You got to see the space. You got an idea of Peterborough. Got to see kind of the country vibe, I guess, that people in Toronto would call it. So it's been really enlightening. And Jairus, I'm really curious. Like what's your read on everything? What's your read on what's happening kind of like locally? I know that you love Peterborough. It's part of the reason why again, like. I think Neil was so drawn to you when we hired you. I'm really curious on what's your take on what's happening with the studio, what's happening with the StudioPTBO podcast, and where we're headed. Any insight specifically on the production that you're doing? Yeah, I'm just curious to kind of get your insight.
Yeah, for sure. I think first of all, like StudioPTBO, you say people are more drawn to what does PTBO stand for? I also think that just generates interest in the brand as well, on a global scale, right? People are more interested and intrigued about what PTBO actually means. And then we can dive into more about what PTBO is and what it stands for as a whole, like in a community standpoint. And in terms of, where we're going and what the future holds in terms of what we're doing as a brand, we're just growing. We're just getting started. Like the reason why I came back to Peterborough after staying a little bit in Toronto was because that sense of community, like, people when you walk down the street. You walk into stores, there's a sense of community there as well. We're trying to hack attention from everybody, right? It's not just Peterborough. So globally, definitely, North America is what we're starting with, but really good.
And what I like is that at its foundation too, we are, like, our sort of tagline is tell your story, that the foundation of life, whether it's by the water cooler or brand building, is your story. It's your storytelling. Why are you attracted to a certain brand or business or organization or person? It's because of the people behind that, right? It's the ethos and their sensibility and their approach to life and their company and their business. So I think it all really aligns in a beautiful way. And I think with this podcast too, like you said, Cody, we've had more reps. We're getting used to each other and the nuances and subtleties, but it's at its core, it's storytelling, right? What we're doing right now, it's just telling stories, it's anecdotes, it's reminiscing, it's nostalgia, it's the present, it's moving forward, but it's storytelling. That's what it is. That's what people say. About our interviews. People call them they're really more just conversations.
Yeah, they are conversations. And something to add is, like, we're 100 episodes in. And a lot of people wonder, is like, well, how did you get so many good names on your podcast? A, we asked, but B, we just created the reps. We don't have hundreds of thousands of downloads on the podcast. We use StreamYard in order to create more views and more downloads and like stuff like this. But ultimately, it comes down to really reps. And people, I think, are drawn to the fact that when you remain consistent with the brand, I think branding over time requires consistency. We've chatted about that over a long period of time, where it's like you become top of mind. When you think of Buckley's, you think of things like, it tastes awful, but it works. And I think when a brand can really tell their story and they show up consistently and daily, whether it be a personal brand building reputation, whether it be an actual brand itself with advertising, it's like the more you're consistent with your messaging, or just even consistent with producing content. I feel like we produce a ton more content over the last 2 months. Again, we're at 100 episodes and we're just finally getting into a rhythm and a routine of doing multiple episodes. We launched a new series, Coffee with Cody, that kind of spawned out of the StudioPTBO podcast. That is just business advice, but it's like, unless you start and you actually create consistency on these podcasts, where, like, we make it a point every week that, hey, we're going to do at least one podcast a week for 52 weeks is 52 episodes. Yeah. So, it's like, I think the consistency is definitely the message we want to kind of get across today, where it's like that podcast you want to start, that business you want to start, anything that you want to do in your life, believe in your ability to figure things out. Because again, like, this just started off of me and Neil having a conversation, being like, hey, we started with the PTBO Canada show, and then we kind of combined forces. We're like, hey, let's do a marketing and branding podcast. And it just kind of took over from there.
And we still talk to local, like, all the time, entrepreneurs and community leaders like Stu Harrison from the Chamber. So it's not like we're just feeding from globally now and that's all we're trying to get. But again, at its foundation of storytelling. And what I'd say to people again is you have to start somewhere. And we started at 0 and now we're at 100 and we've come a long way. But like Jairus said, we're just getting going. Like we're so early in this game. Like Jairus coming in now as a producer, he deals with booking a lot of the guests, the technical aspects of it. We had none of that at the beginning. It was just you and I, like, super lean, mean, figuring it out on our own, bootstraps, grassroots stuff. And now it's becoming, what it is, a little more professional, a little more glossy, a little more, it's just, but I love that. I love that that's the game of life, is that you got to start somewhere, and then you got to have repetition and practice and movement and momentum, and it happens. It happens. And the worst thing that can happen is, it fails, but who cares, right? Like, again, what does it matter? Because at least you tried.
And that's been a common factor that a lot of the entrepreneurs that we've interviewed have said, like, fail quickly and take imperfect action, because life in entrepreneurship is full of failures. It's what you do with those failures that really make all the difference. So guys, man, 100 episodes. I have to do this one more time.
Thanks, Jairus, for putting that together. Literally, like that surprised us.
It was a joint effort. Emma helped out too. So
thank you to Emma and our whole team. Again, we have a dream team here at StudioPTBO in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. And this is a freaking dream come true, what we're all doing together.
Let's do this, because we have some people who are going to listen back to this podcast. Neil, before we finish this up, again, I want to, we talked about radical clarity today. I just want, before we end off, I want you to kind of give the difference between PTBO Canada and the difference between StudioPTBO. What are the differences?
Well, the sensibility and ethos is the same, in that I started both in combination with other people who share my ethos. But PTBO Canada is a media site. It's very hyper local. It's media and information and entertainment. It's like a local version of BuzzFeed. StudioPTBO is an agency, because my dream always was to create an advertising agency, because no agency was ever going to hire me because I didn't have experience, which I don't care about, because I brought you in, Cody, and Jairus and other people who didn't necessarily.
I didn't have experience either.
Yeah, but I don't. That means nothing to me. It's EQ over IQ, and the ability to learn and to be resilient and mindset and all that. But that's the difference. Full service agency, StudioPTBO, PTBO Canada, hyper local media site, but they very much align in a lot of ways in terms of ethos and sensibility and content creation, and then distribution. So it all makes sense.
That's actually how I found StudioPTBO, was through PTBO Canada to start with. So it's really funny how that works out.
Yeah,
it all comes full circle.
It was like a funnel page, Jairus? It was a Cody funnel.
You're welcome. Well, guys, thank you. 100 episodes. Neil, man, super stoked that we're on this journey together. And Jairus, I'm glad that you are along for the ride with us as well. Yeah, happy birthday, Nick. Our lead developer, it's his birthday today. And we want to say happy birthday to you. It's 100 episodes. It's a feel-good day. Happy birthday to Nick.
Is Nick turning 100 today too?
I don't know what to ask him. That beard might be turning 100, but
and we are going to have Nick on a future episode when we get back into the office here, which is looking like pretty soon. We're making plans for that. Yeah. So thanks, guys. Thank you, Cody. Thanks, Jairus.
And thank you for tuning into the StudioPTBO podcast. If you are a business owner, entrepreneur that's looking to grow and scale in the online space, we have a free Facebook group called the StudioPTBO Marketing Hacks. We're actually live inside of there right now. So go make sure you search StudioPTBO Marketing Hacks. Join that. There's a few questions. We go live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you're going to want to get in that podcast. You're going to want to get into that Facebook group. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Get in there. We hope to see you soon. Thank you for tuning in the StudioPTBO podcast. We'll see you soon.